Derek here with the Closet Doctor. This is a lean improvement I made on my motorhome just to make things simpler. Two things that I've done is it's a visual control and it's also a safety thing that I've adapted, kind of the Japanese model of looking at things. Let me show you what those things are. So on my RV, this particular model, I have 10 of these exterior compartments here. And each of them have 1 to 2 different locks on it, sometimes even 3. So when I first got it, it had most of the locks were set to where they were locked in, they were horizontal position, but it actually had some that were in the vertical position. Same thing with the key locks. On some compartments are locked with an additional key lock, so that, you know, for safety purposes, that they would also be, some of them would be horizontal and some would be vertical. So the first thing I did, and if you just flip this open, I took these locks, and you can loosen them up here on the bottom, and you can reposition them in the hole. And I made all of them to where when the lock is in the lock position, it is horizontal. So this compartment here, the manual locks are both in the horizontal position. It's locked, the key lock is vertical. I can open and close it without that. It made it a visual control. And so I can see that. Example, I walk up to this one and I've got one's vertical, one's horizontal. I know that this one's not locked and that I can lock it. It's now locked. So the other thing that I had happen on my trip is I was pulling a trailer. Trailer is a little bit narrower than the motorhome, so you don't see everything in the mirrors. And twice I had where I was driving down the road and my wife says, "Hey, I think the door's open." And so we stopped and got out and looked, and sure enough, I hadn't closed the door on the trailer. And so is what I decided to implement. After the second time, I implemented a process, and let me show you what that is. So the process I would do is I would get out of the RV anytime that I stopped, and I would visually point at each compartment. And the visual thing comes from a Japanese thing that they do with, you know, for safety when they come to an intersection and they're looking at something, and I would physically point at each one of those locks. And by pointing, you have a visual mechanical connection to your brain that says, hey, everything is good, and it's a visual checklist. I would come back, I don't have my trailer on here, but I would check make sure that the hitch was locked and that the lights were connected, and then I'd walk around to the other side and complete the same process. And it just takes me, you know, 15 seconds to walk around the RV. I would also check the trailer and the doors, and so that I would know that everything would be locked and that we're good to go, and that way we don't have to stop again. So just you know, two things there: a visual control that we've added in, and making everything horizontal, so just a quick glance I can see that it's there, and then putting in place a process that I would follow every time. So I would complete that process of looking at stuff every time, whether I just got gas or whether I'd been camped there for 2 or 3 days. I would look at everything physically and make sure that it was there. It would take 15 seconds, but I would never have to stop to close the door that I left open.